And again, God gave the law to the nation of Israel so that it would be a shadow and it would be a guardian that would prepare them and lead them to the Messiah. Because in Hebrews 8:9 it says this, but God found fault with the people and said, who did God find fault with? He didn't find fault with the law. The law is not wicked. The law is not evil. The purpose of the law of God is not so a Christian will look at it and say, if I really want to be a Christian, I got to become Jewish. No, that's ridiculous. The purpose of the law, though, especially for anyone who lived under the old covenant, the purpose of the law is that the law would be a guardian and a tutor and would lead them to the Messiah. Because again, if you look at the law of God, the reason God gave the law is not to make men righteous, because God knew they were going to fail. God is the one who gave them all these sacrifices to be done over and over and over and over again. And guess what? God had incredible grace. Sometimes we look at the Old Testament and we look at God and we think he's a judgmental God and he's angry and he's just beating them up all the time. Realize what God did with the nation of Israel. If they would just worship him, because again, how did they start as a nation? It was God who started them. It was God who called Abraham. It was God who called Isaac. It was God who called Jacob. They ended up in bondage for 400 years. The only reason they came out of bondage is because God raised up Moses, worked through Moses. The only reason they got into the promised land is because God rose up Joshua. Throughout Israel's history, the only reason Israel has continued to remain a people is because of God. If you look at Israel today, here's an example of why God exists, is the existence of Israel. When you have a people that disappear for all these years, and then you have a man named Adolf Hitler who arises on the earth, he is filled with satanic hatred for the Jewish people, goes to great lengths to destroy them, to eradicate them. But the whole thing was that the wickedness of everything that happened during World War II under Hitler prepared the way for them to return to the nation of Israel. And today, there are Arab nations that will claim we're going to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And what they don't understand is every time they point their missiles at Israel, there are angelic armies that stand around Israel. And it doesn't matter if Israel's by itself, because nothing's going to happen to Israel unless God says so. So when people say there is no God, I would say you're a fool. You are foolish to look at creation and say there is no God. And there's going to be people that will stand before God who heard the gospel over and over again, and they're going to have nothing to say to God someday.